love the part when I was like,
Give me a little kamikaze. Give me a little bonsai. Wake up in here.
They're going to the land where the code of the ninjas began.
You are not Japanese. I can do it.
Now, for the first time, the true story.
Welcome Japan.
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 Welcome
Japan.
Welcome Japan.
I'm nothing but a worthless gaijin.
Like, one part of the shore was in Hiroshima Prefecture and one part was in Ehime.
What did you actually live on the mainland of Ehime though, or?
No, I lived on the island, right? So
yeah. You only lived on the island the whole time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But when I went to it was weird because like when I went to the mainland, I would very quickly like be in Hiroshima territory.
Okay.
Unless I went further south, and then I would be in Ehime. So I can kind of talk about both, but I mean, I'll definitely like the island is technically classified as Ehime Prefecture.
Are we missing anything by because your episode was going to be kind of like a bonus episode, like he's out in an island somewhere, but I mean if this experience on the island kind of reflects like the actual lifestyle of Ehime, it might actually work for the Ehime prefecture episode.
I can try to talk about it because I did go down to the capital city like Matsuyama a few times.
Okay.
Well, quite a few times. So
okay.
You could do it for both of them if you wanted. I mean,
that's awesome, dude. Awesome. I thought you were on the fucking island like for like the whole time, and then you just left after. That's great. That fucking fills 2 stones, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, Ehime is not like the most mind-blowingly exciting place by any means, but it's a very like scenic place. Like there's lots of there's some interesting stuff. Like there's the the onsen that movie Sen to Chihiro was.
Yeah.
Like that's what that was based on. Like the onsen.
Oh shit.
It's called Dogo Onsen. It's like
okay.
one of the biggest ones in Japan.
Hey everybody out there on the YouTube source. This is your good old buddy Tkyosam coming to you live from Tokyo, Japan, and today I am joined with an awesome fucking guy, one of my ex-coworkers, one of my good friends here in Japan. He currently lives in Tokyo. And his name is Justin, and we're going to be talking about Ehime Prefecture today on Tkyosam Welcome Japan podcast here, and he is currently an English teacher / writer in Japan, and anyway, say hello to my good old buddy Justin.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you. My name is Justin, and as Sam said, I've known him quite a few years now. Former co-workers, and yeah, as he said, I'm doing some teaching, some translating, and also some writing in Tokyo. So I'd like to share some of my experiences in the rather quiet but still interesting Ehime Prefecture.
Yeah, guys, and so first off, like every podcast that we have here, it's going to start off with getting to know who I'm interviewing first at the beginning, and then we're going to go more into the questions about the prefecture, and then into personal questions and experiences about the prefecture as well. And at the end, we get to talk about where you can find that person more online. So anyway, let's jump into it today, because Justin is a very, very, very interesting case, because you're technically Australian or American or so. Oh, Justin, where are you from? I forgot. Like, I never can put my hand on it.
Yeah, it is rather complicated. I was born in the U.S. On the East Coast, but my father's Italian and my mother's Australian. So mainly for cheaper university fees, I moved to Australia when I was just after finishing high school. So I kind of hopped over there, and then after finishing that up, I hopped on over to Japan. So that's what originally brought me here, was doing the JET program, which a lot of people are probably familiar with.
Okay, and we're going to be going into that soon enough. How old are you right now?
I'll say I'm in my 30s, early 30s.
Okay.
I'll just leave it at that.
No problem. And how long have you been in Japan?
Total time about 7 years. I think it's going on about 7.5 to 8 now. I did do exchange study here when I was younger for about a year. So I was out in Tokyo at a university here, Seikei University, for about a year.
Okay.
So counting total time is probably about 7-8 years at this point.
Damn, nice, dude. And so you are you married? Are you in a relationship? If so, are they Japanese?
I'm not married, but I am in a relationship with a Japanese woman at the moment.
Okay, so you've dated Japanese people before.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so how's your Japanese level though? Writing, reading, speaking wise.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's fairly fluent. I mean, if you're looking at the JLPT scheme or whatever, you'd probably say it's somewhere between 2 and 1. So yeah, I mean, my partner doesn't speak like any English, so there's that. And yeah, I mean, everyday life, I would say I'm fairly fluent. As far as
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say I hate that JLPT. I mentioned this so far in most of the podcasts I've recorded so far, but the JLPT, I fucking hate it. I think it's a bad way to judge somebody's fluency.
I think it's a fairly nonsensical test. I mean, I've seen like Chinese people who can't speak a word of Japanese ace it just through the kanji.
Yeah, right.
So I do think it's a fairly, I guess it's good on paper, but.
Well, my question is, can you call, if you have a problem with your internet, can you call and troubleshoot it in Japanese over the phone?
I think that should be part of the I think that should be part of the JLPT, is they should just hand you the phone and like make you do that.
Yeah, right.
I am able to do that, but I think that should be definitely part of the test.
Fuck yes. Okay, that's all we need to know. In my case, that's all I need to know to see if you're fluent. Can you call this NTT and fucking get them to help set up your
That should be like
router?
90 points out of 100 right there. I mean, I think everything else would just be about 10 points.
So how did you end up actually moving to Japan? I came over here on a tourist visa and I found a job through a private ALT company to work in Chiba first. What about you?
I actually got into through applying from Australia. I got into the JET program, which I think most people probably listening are familiar with.
Wow, yeah, you're maybe the third. Probably I have like 10 jets lined up,
Right.
jets. But wow, that's awesome. So you were able to come over here on the JET program.
Yeah, it was. I've heard like some places applying is quite competitive, but coming from like a fairly small city in Australia, it was like, not only did I know all of the examiners, but they were like people that I was just like drinking with normally. So it was more like it wasn't even really an interview. It was more like just like, hey, how's it going? Like, good luck,
Yeah,
so,
it was just like, you want to go? Okay, cool. Let's go.
Yeah, it really kind of was that kind of situation, because even just finding people interested and, halfway qualified, I mean, there wasn't really that many people. So it wasn't tremendously difficult for me to get in, but other people's results, may vary depending on where they're applying from.
So, if you had to pick 3 reasons why you moved to Japan, what would they be?
Probably I would say, number 1, I would probably say just cultural factors, like music, fashion. When I was a teenager, I was really interested in, Japanese music, Japanese fashion, and, kind of the culture that was around at the time. So that's probably up in the number 1 spot. Number 2, I would say probably language, because I was studying the language at university, and I did want to progress it and like actually use it in its own environment. That'd probably be number 2. And number 3, I don't know. I would just say like general food, drink, having a good time, kind of stuff like that. I mean, I did get pretty into the sake and Japanese food. I was pretty into that for a while too. So
okay. So you overall liked everything about Japan.
What's that?
So you overall liked a lot of things about Japan.
I liked most of it. I mean, as I'm sure everyone else is aware too. I mean, living here for a while, you kind of see the upside and the downside too. But I think if you're just coming out, as a student, I mean, there's definitely a lot to attract people to the country.
Okay. So, what are, if you have any, briefly, if you have any hobbies, could you just tell us a couple before we go into the prefecture questions?
Yeah, the main thing as I said, music, fashion kind of stuff was the big one for a while. I'm also a writer. I'm kind of helping out with several publishing, small independent publishing companies, and I'm also a writer with my own, putting out my own books, novels, things like that. So that takes up the overwhelming majority of my free time. moment.
Okay, and so let's get into the meat and potatoes of this, guys. What we really brought Justin here to talk about today, and that is, the prefecture, Ehime, because Justin has a special story. He's one of the only people I've got. I mean, I already have most of these spots filled up for the people that I'm going to record for all 47 prefectures, but Justin was a special case. He was supposed to be a bonus podcast because he technically lived on an island in the middle of, like, what do you even call that? It's not. It's an ocean technically, but what do you call that?
Yeah, it's actually called the Seito Naikai, or the Seito Inland Sea.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot of people know about it. I mean, it's not a super well known area, but it's definitely got a lot to interest people there. Amazing.
Okay.
Yeah. As to how I got there, I mean,
so how did you end up in that prefecture job at that island? Well, first off, what was the name of the island?
it was called Kamijima, so it's like a island chain.
God Island? Kamijima?
Yeah, more like Kame.
Oh,
like,
Kame. Oh, turtle.
Yeah, sort of like that. I think it's a different kanji, but
okay.
It's actually an island chain of a few different islands.
Okay.
And yeah, as to how I got there, I mean, it was just totally random jet, I guess, luck of the draw. It's kind of funny. I mean, I was aiming for, Tokyo, Osaka, and
yeah.
they put me. It was not in the cards.
Why is it they always do that? It's like as soon as like you want to go somewhere, even if you said someplace random like Miyagi or something, it's still they're like, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
He gets put in the island. He's in timeout.
I was even slightly pissed off at first, but then I just started laughing because I was like, well, it's like so extreme the other way that it's gonna be at least interesting, and it's definitely gonna be an experience, and it was.
How long did you live there?
I stayed there for 2 years in the end. Yeah.
Damn. Let's start with like a little fluffy question. So, is there any Ehime? What food is famous in Ehime?
It's actually most famous for its oranges, like for mikan.
Okay. Oh yeah, shit. Ehime mikan. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of the big main draw. So yeah, that's the thing that stood out more than anything.
Was there any other food or
more
anything?
traditional food? I'm gonna blank on this one.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to blank on
yeah,
that.
because there's always places like Chiba has peanuts and sweet potato and like wine, and I'm like, oh well, but they don't advertise it at all, so you wouldn't know until you go to like a city hall or something. And they're like, oh, why is there a picture of peanuts?
Yeah.
Famous here. I
One
didn't
thing
know
that stood out.
Yeah.
I mean, as I think I mentioned maybe before when we were talking, I said it's kind of the island was almost, and the inland sea is almost on the border with Hiroshima Prefecture too.
Okay.
So a lot of the time when I would get off, I would head in there and load up on Hiroshima yaki, which is okonomiyaki with yakisoba in it, which is pretty
baller.
amazing.
It tastes great, right?
Oh, it's amazing, man. I totally prefer it to just standard okonomiyaki.
It's got that flavor. It's got them noodles, yo. So what? I'm curious. When you lived on the island, though, what were you normally eating? Like, what were you eating, like, food wise? Like,
I was eating all kinds of things, man. I went to, they had little island izakayas there. Little mom and pop kind of izakayas. There was like this, and this is probably going to convey it more than anything, but there was no convenies on this island.
There were no convenience stores?
No convenies. There was no convenience stores. There was nothing like, McDonald's, anything. There was nothing like that.
No McDonald's even.
There was like anything chain, like there was no chains. There was no chain stores or restaurants of any kind on this island.
Like North Korea. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah, it's like it felt like just going into a time machine and, going back about 100 years.
How many people were on this island?
It would be in the low hundreds, like
low hundreds.
A few hundreds. Like it was definitely low hundreds.
Wow.
So yeah, getting my groceries. I mean, there was a little grocery store, and I would go there, get groceries, and I would eat at these little mom and pop, izakayas.
Wow.
Yeah, but everything amazingly fresh. Any kind of fish or um, I'm probably gonna get in trouble for saying this, but this was definitely like whale was hugely.
Yeah. Oh, really?
I would walk into this grocery store and there was like giant blood red chunks of whale. Huge fishing industry, huge kind of ocean industry, fishing.
Okay, so what? So right now, though, how much of your diet do you think consists of Japanese food and other food?
At the moment?
Yeah, at the moment.
I would say it's probably split about 60 Western, 40 Japanese. But while I was living on this island, it was probably the other way around.
But you like Japanese food, obviously, right?
Yeah, I'm kind of
And over it at the moment.
I'm slowly falling out of love with it, but
Yeah.
it's I definitely had a pretty torrid romance with it for a while.
Yeah, when we when we worked together, we'd always get the tonkatsu bento. I remember
Oh
that.
yeah. But I mean on this island like I mean even tonkatsu I would consider more Western. I mean this was like squid, giant black snails, sazai. It was pretty. There was things on the menu where I had no idea what they were. In the izakayas, I mean, it was very like deep kind of kanji I'd never seen, and kinds of fish that how they do with the kanji for fish.
Yeah, right.
Like,
There's
that one
25
radical
different ones. Yeah.
fish, and then there's about 2,000 variations or something. And the whole menu looked like that. So I definitely ate some interesting things. It was very like authentic in that sense. So
Tell me about some. Okay, well, let's get into a little bit more hard questions. Tell me about some cool places, nature-wise, city-wise, work-wise, and that could be on the island or Ehime Prefecture itself. Because I know you said you went there quite a bit, like on weekends or whatever. You'd take a boat or something, go to Ehime and hang out sometimes. So.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. First off, just to start with on the island, it was actually quite a mountainous island. So.
Oh really?
Definitely, yeah. You could do a bit of hiking. You could get up there. Amazing nature. And I even knew people who were doing like hang gliding from the top.
Oh shit!
The mountain.
That's awesome.
I never got around to trying it myself, but it was apparently definitely a thing. So yeah, and the main way to get off the island was just through a ferry.
Okay.
So you would take a ferry to the mainland, and it would take maybe about 25 minutes.
Okay.
And then you would be in the general area of close to Onomichi, which is actually in Hiroshima. There's a very famous kind of like highway there called the Shimanami Kaido.
Okay.
And this has gotten really popular recently for like people coming in to do biking, and just kind of like general scenic touring around there. Because it's a very like I guess like biodiverse or like kind of ecologically rich, you might say, area.
Okay.
Again, being an inland sea, there's lots of unusual plants, insects, animals, things like that.
Okay, so what about specifically like inside your like on the island or like in Ehime, like were there any like cool places that you like to go to or that were like you're like, wow, I'm here and this is only here and that's awesome?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Ehime is famous for its main city, Matsuyama.
Matsuyama, okay.
Which is the city that Natsume Soseki wrote about in Bochan, which again people have probably heard about if they're familiar with Japanese literature. So in this book, Bochan, there's basically this teacher who gets sent out to this Ehime prefecture, Matsuyama, and kind of views it as like ultimate, inaka, countryside, middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which it basically is, right? So
yeah.
even to this day, right? So rather than blacklist him or whatever, Matsuyama has kind of like built its reputation or like tourism industry around Soseki and the Bochan connection. So they have like Bochan everything. There's like Bochan milk. bochan dango and like
Okay.
and so yeah, it's a huge thing. I mean, they really they're really like milking soseki for all he's worth.
Okay. What about like any like cool buildings or like specific like stores that you went to or like scenic like areas or touristy spots in the prefecture?
Yeah, one of the big ones I would say is probably Dogo Onsen, which is if you've seen the Miyazaki film Sento Chihiro, or was it Spirited Away?
Yeah, Spirited Away.
It's the like the super giant onsen or hot bath in that movie is actually based on Dogo Onsen in Matsuyama.
Wow. Okay.
So this is I mean it's one of the super historic, just super giant bathhouses that you could go visit.
Okay. Wow. That's yeah. Shit. I was always wondering like I was wondering where that place was. So that's in Ehime. Wow.
That's right. Yeah, it is. It is in Matsuyama in Ehime.
Did you ever actually end up going there?
I did go there. Yeah. Nothing too supernatural happened, but it's definitely an experience. And if you're going to just visit there or go for a first time, definitely something to check out.
Okay. Awesome. So let's get into so if I'm probably low chances I would be on that island. Were there any other foreigners on that island?
There were, but no Western foreigners. So it was very much like Chinese, some Filipinos, and they were mostly there just to work in the shipping industry,
Okay.
on a ship or in a factory there. So it actually was a quite diverse area. I did get to meet, again, people from the Philippines, China. It's all. I mean, all of us, just by virtue, being foreigners, kind of, found each other and kind of came together. So yeah, it was reasonably diverse. And again, just to give an idea of what kind of island this was, after I eventually did move back to Tokyo, I got a phone call from someone I didn't know, and he was asking me if I was still on the island. He said he was living on the island. He was Chinese, and he wanted to hang out with me because he was just so lonely. He was like, I heard you were on this island, and let's
Wow.
let's just meet up because I need to hang out with someone, right? And I had to tell him, sorry man, like I just moved out, otherwise I would just come and hang out.
Yeah, dude. So I mean, like, where would you go on these islands, or like in Ehime? Where would you go to hang out with people, or like, like fucking like go pick up a chick, or like fucking like go find somebody to date? Like, where do you go to socialize?
Where would you go to socialize? What I ended up doing was I would usually just leave the island on the weekend, by ferry, and then I would go to Matsuyama or Hiroshima.
Okay.
Which were about equidistant, about equally far away. And I would just meet people or friends there, just go to bars, clubs, just normal kind of places.
Just like normal. Were there any bars or places in particular that you like to go to?
In Ehime?
Yeah, let's talk specifically about Ehime. Yeah.
I can't remember the names. It was a while ago, but it's a very small city.
Yeah.
So the nightlife it's pretty much limited to like almost like one street.
Okay.
It's not exactly like a super happening kind of night place. There's your usual bars, izakayas. I can't remember if there's any actual clubs or night spots, but it's not a super.
Are there any places during the day that you can go and meet people?
During the day, I'm sure there would be, but the times I did go there to just like chill and hang out was mostly at night.
Okay.
Mostly when I could get away. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely. I'm sure there'd be some cultural events and kind of parties or something if you really wanted to just meet some new cool people.
Okay, so let's get into what is the hardest part about living there? Was it the weather, location, people?
You definitely have to be pretty self-reliant. I mean, because again, man, I mean, come on, this is like an island, right?
Yeah,
Middle
right.
of the sea. And the demographics. I mean, like I said, like and there were other foreigners there, but um, as far as people speaking English, like none.
None, right? Yeah.
And also the demographics. I mean, it's just like a lot of the young people do just like move, to Tokyo or Osaka or something. So you're left with like a lot of, either really small children or like really, elderly people.
So all the semi middle-aged people or like young people are like pretty much married up already when
Yeah,
you're there.
they're either married up or they're just on the verge of leaving or
Yeah.
there are some younger people, but I mean, you got to be really. I mean, I had enough things to keep me busy that I was fine. But if you're really like a super people person, and you're just gonna go crazy if you can't, yeah, it would definitely be. I could definitely see you going pretty nuts.
Yeah, I could. I don't think I could stand that, man.
Yeah, and there were other people. I mean, I heard about some of the other people who were there like before me and after me, and even some of the people that were there at the same time as me. And most of like there was one guy that just seemed to be like a real hermit. He was on like he was on one of the islands that was like even deeper into the sea.
Oh wow.
And he just went native basically. Like he just lived this
Shit.
completely, he was just hanging out with people on his little island. And I think he barely ever even just left the island. I mean, he just went like full native basically.
Did you guys at least have internet, like Skype and whatever? Because this is before
Yeah,
smartphones, right?
I did. I mean, I had Skype phones and everything. I think this guy, like, I don't think he even got a phone. And I asked him about it. I was like, you don't even have a mobile phone. He was like, I would never even use it.
Yeah. Oh my god.
That's kind of. I mean, so if you're prone to living like a hermit, it would definitely be a good place for you. But if you're like, if you don't speak, I mean, I spoke Japanese when I went there, but if you don't speak Japanese, or if you weren't familiar with Japanese culture, I can imagine it being really rough. Because I mean, this is definitely like the deep end of Japan, and no one speaks English. No one knows anything about, the outside world. I mean, it really kind of is like stepping back about 100 years.
Yeah, dude, that's crazy. But I mean, I guess that's the best way to learn Japanese and get fully immersed, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
just
yeah.
being there.
It definitely gave me a huge kick, because it was just like I had to, and it wasn't even standard Japanese. I mean, it was like, island dialects, and
Oh man.
it was kind of like a weird mute, like I don't know if people listening are familiar with the Hogan or the dialects, but this was kind of like a weird mutant kind of like Hiroshima Ben or something, dialect, and it was just really, really strong, thick. I mean, the first few weeks, like I thought my Japanese was pretty good when I went there, and after about a week or two, I was like, fuck, like this is brutal.
You're just like, I don't what like konnichiwa.
It was pretty rough. I mean, I eventually did get used to it, and I was able to communicate fairly well. But I probably wouldn't recommend this kind of island. I mean, for a visit would be good, but living there for someone who.
Oh, and we're gonna get to that. That's one of the later questions.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
So
time.
but the weather was okay, like winter wise, summer wise. It was decent.
It was very warm, man. I mean, again, being in the inland sea, lots of warm, currents.
Yeah.
It was, occasionally pretty rainy, but winters they're very mild, even compared with Tokyo.
Okay.
And yeah, nice, hot, kind of cool summers. So,
Okay.
pretty good on that score. Pretty easy place to live in terms of weather.
What was the easiest part about living there then?
Easiest part, it was just very chill. I mean, no one was too bothered about anything, and the people were very helpful. I mean, I'm sure if I had just gone to a complete stranger's house and been like, "Can I just crash here?" They probably would have like, I'm sure they would have, like because, like I would be, I did make it up, up the mountain a few times, and like,
Yeah.
sometimes I would just be like walking back, alone on the road, and like, again, like complete strangers would just stop and be like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, sure," because there's nowhere
That's
to go.
awesome.
Right?
Yeah, right.
Everyone's pretty much going in the same direction, So, I mean, things like that, like any kind of problem I had, there's like about 20 different people would just jump out and try to help me because it's kind of like not only was I the only Western foreign, I was the only Western foreigner there, so it's kind of just being
Celebrity
like
status, pretty
yeah,
much.
not really like a celebrity, but it's definitely like everyone knows you,
Yeah, everyone knows you. You're that guy, the
Yeah,
one guy.
you're just that guy.
You're the black guy. Like you are the black dude in Alaska. You're like
It's kind of like it's kind of like you're definitely sticking out like a sore thumb. So, and that's kind of a double-edged sword because, again, like any kind of actual trouble or problem or like needing, if you just want to get a free meal or just hang out. I mean, like people were just like people would stop me in the street and just give me vegetables from their garden or whatever. Complete strangers would just give me things. And
that's awesome. So what was the, I guess if I'm, okay, so let's say you and me were going to there in Ehime for 3 days. Where are you gonna take me? What are we doing? Where are we going?
I definitely would take you to the island just because it's definitely a place you're not gonna get that kind of experience anywhere else in Japan.
Yeah.
Just going over on the ferry, and I would probably take you fishing on the island too, because that was pretty much what people would do. I mean, they would finish their jobs, they would knock off work, and they would just go straight to the pier, and pick up their rods and
That's
start
awesome.
casting around. So, yeah, I would probably take you fishing on the islands, and they actually did have a little hot spring there, so.
Oh yeah.
Little built-in, kind of combination izakaya and hot spring area there. So, yeah, I would probably just take you there. I mean, amazing atmosphere, especially at night in the summer. You go outside and you can see like hundreds of stars.
Oh, wow.
There's the electric lights are very, very minimal. So it really does. Like I had some friends come and stay with me for a weekend, and one of them was Japanese, and they were just like, "Is this really even Japan? Like, it just feels like." She didn't even think it was like Japan. I mean, she was just like, it felt like a different, country or something.
Was
so.
this when? Okay, so like, I mean, this is obviously, I don't know. I didn't think about it. I should have asked this from the beginning. But how many minutes did it take to drive from one part of the island to the other part?
It wouldn't take that long. I mean, I would say it would probably be like well under an hour or so.
Okay.
It's pretty small island, really.
Okay, so 1 hour. That's still quite. That's quite
Yeah.
a bit of landmass.
Yeah,
Then I guess,
yeah,
right?
as landmass, but it was very low population. Like again, it'd be in the low hundreds.
Okay. I'm like looking it up on my thing right now because I'm curious how big that was. So but I mean, like people have like updated houses and everything there, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like I mean, all your modern conveniences. I mean, people had internet, phones. I mean, it wasn't like it's not literally like living in the past, but it's definitely at night. When it really quiets down. It gets really quiet. I mean, it's just the kind of quiet that you kind of basically never experience in like Tokyo.
There's a Kami Jinja and Osaka Kami Jinja and Osaka. Oh wow, you were not joking. That is a lot of freaking islands around there. Okay. Were you do you remember what the name was of the one that you were on? There's Kamijima, Iwagijima. There's like 10
I was
other
actually on Iwagijima.
And that was an hour from like one side to the other. Wow.
I'm probably messing up the math here, but it wouldn't be that long, I don't think.
Okay, but these are that's crazy. Yeah, because guys, I'll put this in the slideshow or whatever for this if you're watching this on YouTube. But there are I had no idea. There are tons of different islands in between.
Yeah, it's a whole little chain. I mean, again, it's just one of these parts of Japan that like most people even Japanese people just like don't know about.
Yeah, like that's I totally blew over my head with this stuff. They even have a thing called Hiroshima Island. Wow. Huh. By
Yeah.
Okayama.
And that made it interesting too. I mean, like the actual Hiroshima. I mean, it kind of being in these islands, like you kind of are you're kind of in a gray zone between like Ehime and Hiroshima. So
Yeah.
you can go to both fairly easily, and you kind of get the influence like from both.
Okay, this is okay, and then I guess for the next question would be where did you like to hang out outside of your house? Like where was your
Outside-
local hangout?
Outside of my house, I would just go down to the pier a lot. I mean, just again, you get kind of the ocean sounds of the sea sounds of the sea atmosphere.
Yeah.
I did spend a lot of time in these like little kind of mom and pop izakayas and eating places. And there's a lot of them. I mean, there was one place where they would like cook up the Hiroshima yaki, the okonomiyaki, and
Yeah.
it was literally like it was like some little shack with this like looked like a 90-year-old woman that would just come out and had like one of these little gas stove things and would like fry them up for everyone, and just random like fishermen would come over and start talking and buy you a drink or something, and
Wow.
it was very easy to be outside. I mean, there's always people around just cooking or fishing or just running around barefoot and kind of
Sounds
very,
very
like-
chill.
yeah, very like chill kind of community kind of atmosphere. Everyone's pretty relaxed, very helpful. So it's definitely easy to just go out and wander around or walk around.
Okay, cuz like I've known you for I don't know, at least fucking like 5 years or something, and you're probably one of the most chill, laid back people I've ever met in Japan. I'm curious, were you this chill before you came to that island, or did that island kind of shape your chillness?
It definitely chilled me out, man. I mean, it definitely. I mean, I would say I was a pretty self-reliant, kind of guy before too. But
Yeah.
I mean, I had to I had to really just learn how to keep myself busy, keep myself entertained, and just do, and just kind of be cool with that situation because. I mean, like I said, I heard, previous people, had just left after like a month because it was just too intense for them, or like too,
Yeah.
well, I don't know if intense is the right word, but I guess intense in a way because, yeah, I
Overwhelming
mean,
for them
it-
to be
yeah,
stuck on
overwhelming.
that island.
Yeah, I mean, and I can imagine people being really, homesick or just not, because yeah, it is a very isolated place. A very kind of enclosed kind of place. So
Okay. Well, let's. Sorry to cut you off there, dude. I just here's moving on to like. I know you've already told me a bunch of interesting stories that happened when you were on the island, but please, tell us, Justin, some awesome, hilarious stories that happened while you were on the island.
yeah, oh, there's lots, man. I mean, I would like. It was a kind of place like it was almost like the place that you would see in like a David Lynch film or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was like things would like seem normal, but they would just be like ever so slightly like just not normal.
Yeah.
So like there was like I think there was like one policeman on the island.
Yeah.
He took himself like very seriously. So like I would be like riding my bike to my job and like I guess I would like turn the wrong way and he would like just stop me and like and there was no one around, like there'd be no one around even on the road or anywhere, like there'd be no chance of any accident, but he would still be like super 100% kind of Japanese level serious about
One
it.
Japanese cop giving you shit about riding a bicycle.
Yeah, and yeah, he would like really, and he would explain like the laws of the road, like, in massive detail. But then like I would, I would be like coming back from work and like people would be like just drinking and driving with like no, they would be coming from parties. And they would be like, and I mean like just staggering, falling down drunk, and they would be like, yeah, come on, I'll give you a ride, home, and I'm like,
Yeah. Just pounding bruise
it's like,
while
"Oh, don't worry, it's okay, it's the island, it's okay, like no one.
just. I'm going the other way. It's cool, man. Thanks for it
Yeah,
anyway.
it's a lot of that. Probably the most interesting thing that happens, and again, something that I think not many people know about is like the island Matsuri, or the annual festival.
Yeah.
It was actually like a secret festival.
Okay.
And they would like just close. They would kind of like close the port. So they would just
really? So nobody
Yeah,
could come in and see the fucking festival.
yeah, they would kind of just like shut down the island for the length of the festival. And it was like it wasn't like some little designated area. I mean, it was like the entire island would just become like the festival ground, more or less.
Man, this is
Which meant that you could just walk around and like go into anyone's house and just like sit down.
wow.
And you know, the lady of the house would just be like continuously bringing out plates of food.
That's
you know,
fucking
and drinks.
nuts, dude.
So everyone could eat and drink for free as much as they wanted for like about 2 days, right?
Holy shit! It's like something out of a Japanese RPG or something, dude.
No,
Sweet
yeah,
Jesus.
It was highly surreal. I mean, it like so everyone would just be kind of like it would look like gangs. Like it would just be people wandering around the island in these little groups and like just stopping every now and then to like go into another house and like have another beer or like eat another plate.
That is so fucking cool, man.
And talk and just talk to strangers. I mean, I assume that like most people knew each other, but for me, like I would be talking to a different stranger, every house I went to, and kind of sharing my story with them, and hearing what they had to say.
Wow, that's so crazy. I mean, that must have been like totally the exact opposite when you came to Tokyo, and everyone's like so cold and kind of I always like to say I was explaining this during one of the other podcasts, but it's like I don't think that people in Tokyo are necessarily cold, but it's like everyone has a mental barrier, and when you're in the countryside, there's only one. You break through it, it's just like hi, and then they're like, oh, boom. But in Tokyo, there's like five layers of mental barriers.
Yeah, it's totally. I mean, I could see like even Japanese people from Tokyo would probably be very out of their depth in a way in this kind of situation, because I mean, there's no boundary, and if you've ever like spent time with people from like really deep country, I think like in any country, that like they're not exactly like the most tactful people.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just asking you like anything that comes out of their mind, and but it's so. I mean, you'd end up having these like bizarre conversations about just really anything that would come to mind.
Yeah, I remember in Chiba I met this guy who was a hunter, and he showed me all his guns and the different ammo, and he's like, "You're American. Why don't you know anything about guns?" I was like, "Well, I mean, like, I know movie guns and stuff." And he's like, "Dude, like, fucking check this shotgun out." And then
Yeah, I mean, it was things like that. Like I had things like that. I had like people trying to like marry me off to their daughters and stuff, like fairly seriously, and like just, I mean, all kinds of crazy, just things like that would happen. But yeah, this annual Matsuri, I mean, it's something I've never really like heard of being in any other part of Japan.
Okay.
And it was really like it was just almost like an adventure, just wandering around, stuffing your face, and throwing down unlimited free beers for like 2 days basically.
So can you tell me, are there any people in particular that you remember that really kind of made that experience in the prefecture for you? Like for me, when I was in Chiba, one of my best friends was Senegalese. He was from Senegal, and his name was. Your camera's okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna write it up here and just dropped off there.
Okay. Yeah, one of my friends in Chiba, he was from Senegal, and his name was Ibu, and I used to hang out with that guy all the time, and we would go, and like he'd take me around, and like it's funny because like you said, being foreigners and everything, it's like being foreigners, we're automatically friends with each other pretty much just because we're different, and like he was like a cool foreigner, but there were also plenty of Japanese people I met. I mean, I met the guy who sponsored my permanent residency. He was the one who was my guarantor. I met him in Chiba too. Like, do you have any people like that like really were like, I don't know, friends of you, or helped you?
I did make a lot, like when I did get off the island and go into Matsuyama and Hiroshima and the cities. I mean, I made like some amazing friends that I'm still in contact with now. And I actually am still in kind of distant contact with some of the people I worked with on the island.
Oh wow.
I got along really. My supervisor was this kind of like older lady, and she had like the person who was working there before me was like, "Oh, you gotta watch out! Like she's really terrible." And he really had nothing nice to say about her. But I got along with her really well, and I think it was because I was just not too bothered, and I was willing to try to like understand her Japanese, which was like really thick.
Yeah.
So yeah, people who were working in the town hall, and their families. I mean, it almost kind of like was being in like a mafia town or something, because like almost everyone in this town had the same last name, Murakami.
Wow.
And they were just like apparently they were like descended from some kind of like pirate clan that was there.
Okay.
Back in the day. That would like control, the waterways and like, raid people inland sea.
That's
so
crazy.
there was also a pirate festival at some point.
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, I mean, pretty much everyone at this, town hall was like, they almost all had the same last name, and I guess they were like all distantly related or connected somehow. So yeah, it kind of was just like hanging out with, a big mafia family or something, and just kind of having that atmosphere. So.
Okay. So how did you like actually working though on that island, and like how was your commute? Were you far away from the school? I guess not.
No, I was like not even a 10-minute bike ride away. I live fairly close to the kind of central area. So yeah, actually getting to work was a breeze. I never had any problems with it.
Yeah.
As far as the actual job and kind of workplace environment, I mean, it was very relaxed. I mean, everything. I mean, I was working in the town hall, and I was kind of helping them with some of their promotional materials and just kind of general business. And I was teaching some of the kids in the school there. But again, because it was such a small area, I mean, there was never any like drama or problems. I mean, because everyone like knew everyone, so you couldn't really get away with being a dick or like causing problems, because like just no one would like tolerate you, I guess, if you did. So
how many kids were even in the school? Was there an elementary school, junior high school, and high school, or was there only like one school of everybody?
It only went up to the junior high school.
Okay.
So once the children would like graduate from junior high school, they would have to like go to the mainland to go to high school.
Commute every day, or like boarding school kind of thing?
I think a lot of them would just like, I don't know if they would like board, but they would either like stay with other relatives or like just.
Oh wow.
To go there, because yeah, I mean it's not easy to get. I mean, I guess they could commute, but it seems like it would be pretty hard to consistently.
Yeah, I take the boat back and forth every day kind of thing. Well, I mean, kids do that in Tokyo. Like one of my students, like she commutes 3 hours round trip every day.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, like driving to the pier, like getting off, getting on the boat, getting on.
Yeah,
getting off.
And the service, like even the ferry service, like wasn't always like the most reliable. Like, it was like if there was this, I mean, I got stranded like both ways a few times. Like, if there was like a storm or something, like they would just call it off, and I like there was a couple of times when I would like get stranded on the mainland and I wouldn't be able to get back, so I would have to like stay overnight in a hotel or something, or a capsule on the mainland, and then get a ferry very early in the morning, and then like rush to my job and
wow.
So
that's awesome though. That's cool. That like that's so unique though. Like that's like everyone always says like first world problems. It's like small island problems, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely, like I said. I mean, it was just such a surreal place to live, and just things like that you would never even like issues that you would just never have any other part of the country.
But tell me about the place where you lived. Like, what kind of place was it? Was it a house, apartment? Did you like it? Did you not like it? And like, how much was the rent?
Well, there was no rent, because it was just kind of like a it was like a washitsu, like a Japanese kind of apartment.
Okay.
And, yeah, I mean, I don't think there was rent. I mean, if there was, it was just covered by jet. So any like utilities and stuff, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it didn't seem like I even really paid anything.
Okay.
Maybe they took it out of my paycheck, but it never really seemed like it.
How big was the place? Like,
It's pretty large. I mean, it'd be equivalent of like, I'm bad with remembering the LDK sizes.
there's
but
like 1 LDK, 2 LDK,
Yeah,
3.
I would say probably between 2 and like even maybe 3 or something. It's pretty, it was tatami mats and everything, but it was pretty spacious.
Was it like an apartment or a house?
It was technically an apartment, but it was pretty large, pretty large, giant apartment.
Wow, that's awesome. How was there anything good or bad about? Like, was it cold during night or something?
Yeah,
Or?
I mean, I'm honestly not really a fan of, washitsu and, tatami and everything. And, like, I'm a pretty, like, tall guy. And,
Yeah.
like, the doors and the ceiling and the beams were just, like, ungodly low. And, I was bumping my head. Like, I mean, I still bump my head now. But, I mean, like, it was pretty bad for that.
Yeah.
As for other stuff, I mean, like, toilet was not great. I mean, it was a Western style toilet, but it was very like it looked like one they just like converted or something. And it was very uncomfortable, and same thing with the shower, the toilet, the bath, like all that kind of stuff was just it seemed like the kind of facilities they hadn't changed in about 50 years or something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
taking a shower was never, or taking a bath and using all that kind of stuff was always a bit, especially in the winter, because it was really cold. I eventually like did get them to install like a heater, but for like the first 6 months I was there, I mean it was just like kerosene heaters in the winter.
Yeah.
It was fairly like primitive in that sense.
Was it did you okay, so the apartment was big, but it was pretty old. Everything was old. Like even my old apartment when I lived in Aguisadani here in Tokyo, it was one of those heaters for the shower where you push it down, twist, and then wait 15 seconds, and then you lift it up, turn it around.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. I mean, it was that kind of thing, and like it was like so dodgy. I mean, there would be times when I just couldn't get it to work. I would have to just like go outside for 10 minutes, come back, and then just try again because it just.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it was such a frustrating system.
I hated that thing. Yeah, mine that one because like guys, basically it's like there's a knob and then there's 2 knobs and a flip switch and you have to push down one and then like turn it and wait for the gas to go, and then you push it down and wait for the gas to go for 15 seconds, then you push it up, turn left, and then that will start the flame. Or wait, no, you push it down and then you flip the switch or something. It was such bullshit,
I mean,
right?
if I had it in front of me now, like I probably couldn't do it now.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it for like 2 years, but I probably like couldn't do it now if I had it in front of me.
I was so happy when I moved into this house that I'm in now because I was like, turn it on. Like that's all you do, just like twist the knob and there you go, hot water. I was like, oh
yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I like again things that people in Tokyo. I mean, I'm sure you've met a lot of foreigners in Tokyo that bitch like pretty strongly, and
yeah.
I mean, like if you're bitching about Tokyo, I mean, it's like
like you don't know pain, you're
a
whiner and a complainer,
Yeah, things like that. I mean, it's definitely, and I've heard I have heard similar things from people who have lived in other fairly like rural parts of Japan. I mean, they definitely don't keep everything like up to date. So there's ancient heaters and stuff and.
Did you so how much was so the rent was like pretty much free pretty much. What about so we established it's a big place, it was really old, and the rent was really I mean there was virtually no rent. Would you so I guess we only have 2 more questions left of this interview and then we're done, dude. And that is what would you recommend anybody live there for the first time of coming to Japan? Yes or no? Why?
Well, again, like it seems like unless you get selected for JET or something, like it seems like a very difficult place that you even could, if you even could live there, because it's kind of like unless you were like working as a fisherman or something, it's kind of like what would you do there?
Yeah.
But But as far as just the general area, Ehime Prefecture, or even just like the inland sea area, yeah. I mean, listen, if you love nature, I mean, this is gonna be like your dream area, and it's it even has like a few kind of hipster elements to it. I mean, there's kind of like there's some like traditional crafts. There's a bunch of artists out there. I mean, so it's a very like cool area in the sense that it is very like under the radar and just kind of like there's things there that you're not going to see or find anywhere else.
Yeah, it's like a hidden, your own hidden place, right?
Yeah, yeah, and that goes for like cities or towns like Onomichi or Inoshima and just that kind of whole area, the inland sea area. Yeah, amazing, biodiversity, nature, any kind of outdoor activities, biking, fishing, like even the hang gliding. I mean, you're gonna have a field day, living there with that. And yeah, Ehime in general, Ehime Prefecture, Matsuyama, very traditional town. I mean, I don't even know what this means, but if you're after like, the real Japan or the, old-timey, authentic, Japan or whatever,
Yeah.
that's definitely like, you're not going to really find much more than there, So, yeah, it's definitely, if you're bored of, Tokyo or, I mean, it's definitely a place to check out, I would say.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. And I guess, so guys, if you really like nature and you want to see old school Japan, you don't mind being isolated too much, go in there if you could, aside from Jet.
Yeah, I mean, anyone that like thinks they're like hardcore and wants to, what is it, like all Japanese all the time, or is that
all Japanese all the time.com. Yeah.
Anyone that wants to push that as far as it will go, I mean, you're gonna. I can't imagine it
any
being
more than that, right? Yeah.
Than that, so.
Shit. Yeah, dude. I mean, full immersion. I think if Justin can come out of that and be as chill as he is now, I'm pretty sure it's like the exact opposite effect of, or it's like a solitary confinement in prison, right? It's either you're gonna come out a better person or a broken person, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the last question, dude, the big one that I always end this with. Actually, I've asked everybody so far, and this is actually a separate question. I'm gonna ask you two questions because I didn't hear you say it once because you were a special case. But do you like Koko Ichiban curry?
I love it, man. I mean,
okay.
I've been going there since I got to Japan, basically. I don't love it as much as I used to.
Yeah.
But I still go there maybe like once every 2 months or something.
Yeah, I just, what is it? Everybody who I've like talked to so far, when they say the Japanese food part, they're always like Koko Ichiban. Of course, that's my shit. But that wasn't the big question, guys. The big question is, are you a lifer like me? Are you gonna die in Japan, or what are in the future plans for Justin?
I'm gonna say I hope that I'm not and I don't, but I suspect maybe I will. So if that makes any sense. Yeah, I mean, I suspect I probably will live other places for even maybe years, but I suspect I will probably, if not just consistently living here, like I'll definitely keep coming back here probably for the rest of my life, or at least that's the way it seems now. I mean,
that's awesome. Well, I mean, your Japanese is fairly good anyway, so there's no problem with language or anything.
Yeah.
So, okay, so guys, that's Justin. I want to thank Justin for coming on this podcast and taking the time out of his day. He is kind of a busy dude, so when I can catch him, it's great to talk to him. And this is the part of the podcast where I let the person I'm interviewing plug whatever they want to plug. So, Justin, the floor is yours, man.
Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about the publishing company I'm kind of associated with and helping out with.
Okay.
It's actually called Snugglybooks. And the website is snugglybooks.co.uk.
Okay.
And it's an independent press, and as far as what they're publishing, it's split about 50-50 at the moment between translations of older fiction, usually at the moment from French. So a lot of French decadent writers, and also pretty modern current writers who are usually coming out with pretty experimental or kind of, off the map approaches to writing. So, there's also a strong, we've published some stuff that's connected to Japan, related to Japan. So, if you're into fiction and you want something that's, different from the norm, give it a shot.
Okay, snugglybooks.co.uk.
That's right. Yeah.
Is there anything else, any other like websites, books, whatever that you want to be plugging, or?
I could plug some of the books, and I can send some of them in. The one writer we're trying to push at the moment is a French writer called Jean Laurent.
Okay.
Just put out a few translations of him. I'd recommend checking out that website and seeing if anything like catches your eye or looks interesting.
Okay. And guys, if you want links to anything that Justin just mentioned here, it's going to be in the description down below if you're seeing this on YouTube or Facebook. If it's on YouTube or if it's on iTunes, be sure to check it out in the description wherever that is. And dude, thanks for coming on the podcast, man.
Oh, thank you, Sam. Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's like I said, I've known you for years, and it's been great coming on. And I hope people get something out of this. Hopefully, it'll encourage them to check out Ehime and maybe even make it to the island. Yeah. Yeah,
right, man. I mean, this is the whole reason I'm doing this podcast. It's just because it's 47 people, 47 hours, 47 prefectures, and it's a
cool idea. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you'll get some pretty diverse stories there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I really like, what is it? It's just there's, everyone kept fucking talking about on Facebook or whatever, 2016 was such a shit year, blah, 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 but, I mean, it wasn't that shit for me, but I think that this year is a great chance to have a rebound on positivity and optimism, and I think, the person, I mentioned this in another podcast, but I'll just briefly mention this to Justin, because he didn't hear this from me yet, but the main reason I'm doing this podcast is because one of my friends that was here, that was long-term here, he had to go back because of family issues.
Right.
But, he said the worst part about Japan is that you'll meet awesome people and then they just leave. And,
it's very real. It's never going to stop, and it's not always who you would think either. I mean, it's sometimes people have been here for years and then they're just gone, so... it's definitely an issue that I think all expats probably in other countries we're probably gonna come up against.
Well, it's like we have our own the own groups of people that have been here for a long time or lifers or whatever, but then we have special cases where sometimes people that aren't here for that long stay here for a little bit and you don't ever get to hear their story, and that's another reason. You get to hear the lifers and you get to hear the guys that are briefly here or temporarily here, and you get to hear their slice of Japan, and I really like that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if you're able to get both of those sides, I mean, you're going to get a real, probably deep picture of the country.
Okay, so anyway, guys, thanks for listening to this podcast all the way through. Now, time for me to plug my stuff. This podcast. Sorry, bleep bleep. This podcast is brought to you guys by awesome viewers like yourself. I'd like to thank everybody who came over to Patreon and helped sponsor this podcast, and also just people in general who keep coming back every week to check out my shit. 2017 is going to be an awesome year for growth, and thanks for coming and taking the ride with us. Anyway, you guys... Oh, wait, before I leave, Justin, can I get a stay black from you before you sign off?
Yep, stay black and bring it back.
Yeah, stay black, guys. Yeah, buddy. Hey everybody, just some last minute announcements. If you're not already doing it, please consider following us on social media, links down below. Big thank you to everybody who clicked on the podcast to listen today. Do us a favor, and if you liked this podcast, help us grow by smashing that like button, subscribe bell to get notified when the new podcast comes out. Did you learn something new on today's podcast? Do you want to hear more? Which out of these 3 prefectures should we do a podcast on next? Let us know by emailing us at tkyosam@gmail.com. If you are listening to this in your car and you want to conserve your phone data, consider following us on the other podcast platforms. We are currently on iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. Links down below. Like always, this wouldn't be a Tkyosam production without giving a special sweet thank you / shout out to all of the Tkyosam fam who support us over on patreon.com/Tkyosam. Without your support, this podcast would be much harder to produce. Thank you all so much for the support. That's it for this month's Prefecture podcast. What did you think of it? Good, bad? Let us know in the comment section down below. Finally, we are always looking for new people to interview on this podcast. If you check out the video description below, you can find out what prefecture we still need to find people to interview for. If you know somebody, let us know by emailing us at tkyosam@gmail.com. Like always, this has been the Where Come From Japan podcast. Thank you all for watching, and most importantly, stay black.